Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to cover the Billy Meier case a little bit here. I recently listened to the actual interview with Michael Horn, who's a big Billy Meier enthusiast, researcher, works for him for free, has been doing this for 20 years. And the Billy Meier case is an interesting one. And like all extraterrestrial cases that come out there, the channel for the information always is really bad. Billy Meier is certainly not a great intellect, a great anything, or someone you should be contacting. But of course, I've always wondered about this. Travis Walton, etc. These are people that are just common nobodies, goofballs like Whitley Strieber. What is all this stuff? The problem is that credible people will not come out and talk about this. There was a person supposedly abducted by aliens that was a head of a network or high up in the television industry. And, of course, he was very traumatized by this, but he would never be able to talk about it because he'd be labeled a nut job and his entire life would be over. So we always have to put that in the equation. The problem, though, is that any kind of, and, are there any good, normal people? Well, there really isn't. I hate to tell you, people. Who's going to be a good source for something? What are they going to do? Because the problem is that it comes down to the same thing. Now, the last time I did something on this, a person contacted me and said, read his 40,000 pages of babbly booping garbage. And that's exactly what his writings are. Now, he's gotten a little more practical in modern times. When I asked this person repetitively to give me any practical information that Myers has come up with, psychic techniques to heal yourself, psychic techniques or techniques to grow things, anything practical whatsoever other than I'm Jesus. So the fact is that people who get involved in the mythical religion realities, and there's plain and simple, whether you like any religion, there is no proof to it. Certainly there's zero proof to Jesusism. There's no proof that he ever existed. There's no writings about him by Jewish scholars, Roman scholars, Greek scholars, anybody, anywhere. There's not even a reference to this so-called Jesus. So when you get into this, your credibility is already completely lost. And the point is that Jesus is not the end-all and be-all. There's certainly the philosophy that has been perpetrated in most of the religious books are all the same, saying the same stuff. And then it ends in some pretty disgusting, kill everybody else, and you're the best. And I've never known a religious person who hasn't really come down to the fact that, I know what's going on, you don't agree with me, so I'm going to kill you. And that certainly goes to all the Christians as well, who think they're the love gods. So already you have a problem if somebody keeps spouting something that is related directly to Christianity or any religion for that matter. So there has to be something way beyond that than something that popped up a whole 2,000 years ago in a huge history. And it certainly has done nothing for mankind. If extraterrestrial groups cannot give us something better than that, then they probably should leave quickly. We don't need you. And of course, they don't give you any information. They don't heal anybody. They don't do anything anymore. They want to give you Cracker Jacks quotations and talk about whatever. Now, what's interesting again is that the pictures from Billy Meier and so many other things are quite interesting. Some have been, as usual, you get into the big mishmash of what we can believe or not. His ex-wife came out and said it was all a fantasy. These were pictures of trash can covers and other things. And of course, we just don't know. You'd have to get some real professionals there. But can you trust anybody? I found you can't trust anybody because when I do research into an expert's field, I find they're not very expert. They have a lot of wrong information because they're brainwashed. So there's an awful lot of people who've had these kind of contacts. And of course, this guy, Michael Horn, takes Billy Myers as the, quote, gospel. And everything he says is proof. Everything else is just speculation because Billy Meier is so correct. Yet we don't have really anything from Billy Meier in terms of any kind of concrete information. Now, what I should say what Michael Horn was talking about here to verify how great Billy Meier is his prophecies, psychic readings, And what he said to verify is that Billy Meier claimed, and he claimed he made an error, because he doesn't know the difference between after or before, was the fact that there will be a world war before 2020. Well, that didn't happen. After, that didn't happen. How long are we supposed to wait for this? I told you that 100 years ago, now we have a world war. I told you should listen to me. Well, this is the kind of crap you get. If he's so in touch, if he's got such great information on prophecies, because all he's doing is making psychic predictions again, which are made by the tens of thousands, maybe the millions, all the time. It's totally complete. If you want to be taken seriously, give me a date. Secondly, he said that this world war would take place between Russia and the Great Britain. What? Well, the point is that's just ridiculous. So the whole idea is that, and it didn't happen. Russia has not started a world war. The Ukraine situation is really a glorified civil war. A country that was owned by Russia and the Soviet Union, who is on its borders, who is sticking the giant in the eye with a stick. And they reacted after a long time, by the way, when they were fired on in 2014. Let's get the facts there, because people somehow think these are great people. The most corrupt country in all of Europe, and one in the third most in the world, who are now selling the weapons that were delivered to them to other people to make money from them. So that's how much they're doing. Oh, they're courageous fighters. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, well, that's not what I hear. It's just nonsense. And that goes with that. But I'm not going to get into the details of that. But the bottom line, there's nothing specific. People who claim that they are Jesus, who claim that they have a great source for everything, just as psychics and everything else, you can't let psychics, predicting people, or anything else give you ballpark information. You're either correct or you're not, because too many things can happen. I'll tell you, everybody, I'll have a prediction right here. Ooh. You are going to die someday. Probably 20, 30 years from now. Ooh. Yeah, see that? I'm 100% correct. So this is the kind of nonsense you get. You've got to get specifics. Now, first of all, whether he made an error or not, I doubt that. He should know the difference between before and after. And this Horn wants to rationalize that. None of these people have. He has put out zero. The fact that he wants to state how wonderful he is and give us philosophical mumbo-jumbo, which quite frankly, we have a lot of good stuff like that. We already have lots of it in the, quote, holy books from the Dummy Lama, from everybody else out there. We have plenty of philosophical stuff that is, if people followed the rules, basically, or the nice thoughts, and weren't greedy sexual scumbuckets, we'd all be fine. So let's have that. Why don't we all go to the planet of all the people that he is in contact with and inhabited them? After all, they've already said they are not interested in working with humans. And, of course, they picked Billy Meier, the hillbilly from that's had one goofball experience after another, completely and totally unprovable. There is no evidence. There are no pictures of these aliens. He claims that, but there isn't really any good information there. We have a lot of witnesses to crafts and other things, which is fascinating. But it doesn't mean that the so-called Palladians, which again apparently is a misnomer, they're really named Goobala, Monkey Man, and whatever they really are for those things, is giving us nothing. No technologies to cure, no technologies to grow food better, no technologies of how to purify water, nothing, any. All the things that would be helpful. All we've got is the same old nonsense and prophecies of the lowest bottom of the barrel stupidity that you can get into, because they're just too nebulous. Give me dates, give me times, and give me information. So, his prophecy. Then he said, he prophesies COVID. There's been prophecies of COVID type. There are films that were made 30 years ago talking about this. There are other predictions by people. This is not unusual that we're going to have some sort of, quote, pandemic. And a lot of people don't even believe in the pandemic. This was a horrible flu. Was it anything special? Well, I'm not sure it is. I think we're a lot weaker species. I think our immune systems have been compromised. And when a real ballbuster comes out there, it's going to take out a lot of people. And we're just not sure what all that is either. So people get flus every year. It's passed in your family. There's nothing new to this. Should we be careful? Should we take extra precautions? Well, I think so, but we have to also be cognizant of the fact that this is nothing new, and medical science refuses to come out with antivirals. So we have the same old story here, and we run into. So the kind of indirect, bogus information that you get from Billy Meier has proved nothing. Like so many things out there, there's all sorts of contradictory information and some interesting stuff. I've looked at his photos carefully. I've studied interviews, particularly in the 1980s and 90s from the Bill Jenkins show, who had people that went over there, who researched it directly at that time, and it was not this guy. They put out books. I have the books of the photographs, and they certainly are interesting, but I'm not a photographic expert. And of course, back in those days when you didn't really have Photoshop, it was very difficult to make these kind of photographs that look so good. So it's really hard to say. But, people have been able to reproduce similar photographs using very simple stuff. Now, Billy Meier's is one-armed. It's hard to do all this stuff. But, there are things called tripods, and they have been around for probably 100 years. So the whole idea is it's not entirely true. Now, we just don't know. We just don't know. But Billy Meier's as a channel, as a person, and his whole life and everything else, and how they're doing things over there is pretty poor. Yet, of course, we all know that he's been harassed, he's been shot at, he's been everything else. But the bottom line is he's not giving out any kind of good information. There are no cures he's giving out. There are no treatments. There are no ways to grow things. There's basically no practical information whatsoever. And I don't need a meditative technique. So the whole idea is that whatever he's come out with, as I asked that person who contacted me several times, name a practical thing. I'm not going to read hundreds of pages of him saying he's Jesus and coming out with prophecies that are worthless. We've already found that his prophecy for the Third World War is wrong. It's 100% wrong. Plain and simple. And to even think that they would just attack Great Britain is absurd. There's an entire continent there that's all tied together. So the whole idea is they wouldn't attack them, and for what particular reason. And nor is there likely to be a world war unless somebody pushes that for basically for profit. There's no benefit in world wars. People lose money that way now after they can make it like Russia has recently, who has tripled their income by having this war. So the whole idea is that this is a complicated issue, not a simple-minded Billy Meier's fantasy. So the whole idea is we just don't know, but he better come out with things. He's now in his late 80s. He's going to die leaving all this garbage talk and books he's written that talk about nothing and how he's Jesus and everything else. The same philosophical mumbo-jumbo. That is excellent for toilet paper, but anything else has no value whatsoever. Let's get specific. Let's get past, and if you're going to give me prophecies, I want dates and times, not it's going to happen in the next 20 years. Well, quite frankly, anything can happen in the next 20 years that anybody could say. So the whole idea is just doesn't mean anything after this. I mean, if you're such a great channel, if you have great information from wherever you're getting it, well, why don't you have the dates? Is that so complicated? Well, it is not. So the fraud is pretty obvious that this person is just writing nonsense. Plain and simple that. There is no details, there's no information, and listening to this guy Horn on here talk about Billy Meier's, who he's a psychotically believes everything that Billy Meier says, just really proves the kind of illogical stupidity that is being perpetrated about Billy Meier's being so exact. He's not exact. He hasn't put anything out there. Period. You know about COVIDs? Come on, Billy, give us a cure for it, Billy boy. What is that? Some sort of Swiss fondue? You get cheese and lay it on a COVID thing? Is that what it is, Billy? So the whole idea is you've got this kind of stupidity going on, which is just annoying. And to try and grasp upon straws, and while the photos are interesting, it really proves nothing. Photographs just aren't good enough. All these years he has, and they claim they even have physical. Where is the physical evidence? From what I understand, it isn't. When you go to Billy Meier's and you look at his books, and he has some toys to buy there as well, there's not a single bit of advanced technology there. There are no manifesting devices. There's no curing tools. There's no sigils to help you. There's zero when it comes to practical. Why is there zero practical? because you can prove if this is right or not. Does it work or does it not? And Billy Meier has none of that. He has goofy pictures. A lot of it can be reproduced. We just don't know. With any of it, there's been people over there, and I don't know what all that means, groups of people who have seen ships and so forth. Well, I'm not sure that means anything. First of all, extraterrestrials are not necessarily bright, advanced, good either. Extraterrestrials are just like everybody else in the universe, and these seem to be just as stupid as everybody else. And they're certainly not going out there and assisting mankind on any great levels. They're not doing anything to give you practical information. So I don't need you to tell me, take care of the earth, don't kill each other. Yeah, we've heard that before. What do you got to help that situation? Maybe if we could grow more food, people would be less violent. Maybe if we had meditative techniques to help us go into deep states of purity, we didn't want to kill each other more. So all of these things, if we had cures, maybe we would feel better so we weren't so hostile. Where are your answers? And that goes with any kind of extraterrestrial contact. And what I find from extraterrestrials and everybody I've ever talked to is there's absolutely zero to nothing that they actually provide of a practical nature, which means even if you have legitimate contact, who cares? It's like standing outside the best restaurant in the world, but they won't let you in. Well, and you're starving to death. Well, who cares then? If I can't get to the food, Joel, go on, idiots. So the whole idea is that's exactly what we all have to look at in the bigger picture. So here again, the big claim to fame is that there's going to be a third world war after or before, we're not really sure, 2020, and this has not happened. And it's going to involve Great Britain and Russia. Now that really makes a lot of sense, does it? Well, I don't think it makes any sense at all. It's unlikely that any of that will happen. People are rattling sabers now, trying to get people into conflicts for some strange and bizarre reason, which is hard to even fathom, thinking that some sort of world war is a picnic. Because these people don't have the old memories. All the World War II veterans are dead. They've allowed all the fascists to stay in power, and all of this will turn into a big mess. And you can ultimately understand that the ultimate power here is not Russia or Great Britain or Europe. The ultimate power here is the psychotic, willing to use nuclear weapons to the highest level Americans. They've already used it all the time. They have no problem bombing and everything else. That's their culture. They've spent 50 years, 70 years now, building militaries so they can destroy other people when it financially fits them. The problem is that world wars, while they benefit a few, really cause so much problems, destruction, and terror that it's unlikely that this has any benefits. If you can't keep selling your oil, your wheat, and other things, you've lost the bigger game. This is a world of economics, and it's as simple as that. And while we have a certain very bizarre civil war going on right now, it's ridiculous to extend this anywhere for such a low-level group of people as the corrupt Ukrainians, who are known for their corruption and who basically are nothing more than a Nazi government, regardless of their, quote, Jewish president. Yeah, well, that's a good cover, isn't it? They've had Jewish presidents twice now, and they're the most corrupt scumbuckets you could get. Certainly there isn't a high level there. And that's one problem with always with the Jews in terms of trying to go the higher road. Well, they've never been the higher road. I've always been a supporter of the Jews and Israel. But the point is they're no better than anybody else in a lot of ways. They have a right to exist like everyone, and their thought forms should be kept out there. And obviously, but the whole idea is this kind of stuff is just garbage. Billy Meier is another one of those people that can't prove anything, refuse to produce anything, and why not make a film? Oh, we have a little technical problem there. Why not make a film talking with these? Show them on camera. Oh, they're camera shy. Oh, they don't want to be filmed. They just want to give you prophecies, huh, Billy? It's just a little bit ridiculous. And for every positive person that's come out and for every understanding, he's had people within his group said that he's nothing but a big fraud, including his ex-wife. But, what kind of credibilities are ex ex-wives. Not very well. They're like ex-employees. So, but the whole idea is that he really doesn't have. He has lots and lots of photographs, lots and lots of things that really just don't add up to much of anything. But even if it does, he has absolutely no credibility because he doesn't give you anything practical whatsoever. Where are the cures? Where are anything that can help this society do things on a higher level so that they can produce better results? Whether that's fuel, whether that's food, whether that's anything, and particularly health-wise. He wants to prophesize COVID in another vague thing. Oh, there's going to be some disease. There's always disease going around. These are the con artist type prophecies that, of course, never seem to work out. So we do have to be careful there with understanding where they're coming from. But certainly what this guy is talking about is such a bunch of garbage, and he thinks that this is 100% proof, and he's got a bunch of fools to come out supposedly on his side. Well, I don't really care what scientists and ex-astronauts say because they don't understand the facts of it. After all, look at the world we're in that they have created. So the whole idea is I don't believe any of that. Let's see some hardcore evidence. As I've stated, let's have some practical information that allows you to do something in this physical reality or really bugger off. Until next time.